Zadok, why did you come from Europe to occupy Palestine?
I did not come from Europe. I come from Iraq. I was born in Baghdad. We came to Israel, the state of Israel, in 1951. I even remember as a child, 5 years old, the declaration or the agreement in the United Nations that Israel would become a state. It was in November. I remember the evening. I remember how afraid we were in Baghdad that the older people the older people in the family, and we were in an extended large family in a big house. So I saw them. I did not understand. It was evening, night time, and I went up to sleep. But I saw them before then, closing the windows, and they're huddling next to the radio, and I did not know what was going on. And suddenly, as I'm asleep, I'm awakened up, and I'm hearing they're saying, "Salat," like that. And I said, "Salat is, it occurred, it happened, it became." And I said, "What's that?" And they says, "The state of Israel became. Shh, no one should hear, because there are people walking in the street, They are walking in the street. We don't want them to know that we're Jews in our house. It is very, very dangerous." That was the period of my childhood in Baghdad.
Your family, for how long have they been in Iraq?
For all I know, by names in the family, not the history of the Jewish people, by the names of the family, about 5 generations back. Yeah, in fact, we did not have family names. We had the name of the biggest family, and usually it used to go by the name of the family of the father. So, for example, my name by birth was in Arabic, Salah. I was named after my great grandfather, and if I go to school, they ask me, "What is your name?" I will use my name, and I say, "Salah." Salman is my father. Ruben is my grandfather from the house of Sleman. And if they ask me, "Who is your mother?" and I say, "Violet Uzra from the house of Zbeda," because it used to be the families that was the reason for that, is because by far most of the people in Iraq and in Baghdad or in Basra or wherever it is, relate themselves way back, not 2,000 years, 2,500 years. And in the north were the Kurds, which they were from the Assyrian, from the destruction and the conquest of the Assyrians at the time of what now is called Samaria and the Galilee. And the tribes were the so-called the 10 or the lost tribes of Israel. And the people in the north we spoke Arabic of the Jews. It was called Arabi Malihud, the Arabic of the Jews. And in the north they spoke Assyrian Aramaic, because that was the language in the north at the time. And they are even older than we were in the area. They were about 200 to 250 years prior, and they were Jewish. But now, how do we know a lot about them? Is because for the coming to Israel, after the creation of Israel, they came to Baghdad, and we got mingled with them for these 3-4 weeks that they were with us. And some of them were the different kind of clothing that we are. So we call them Hakurdim. Yeah? And they came to Israel.
The Kurds.
Kurdim. Yeah?
For so many generations, your family has been in Iraq.
Yes.
Why one day you decided to leave Iraq and to come to Israel?
The start was at the beginning, not even the beginning of the Zionist movement. No. It was in the 30s or so, where started the immigration here, from the settlers here, the founders of the Haganah, the founders of the Etzel, the founders of the of Lehi, in order to start attracting people. So they came in and they said, there is a movement, there is a big movement, there is Israel, they want to create, and that started a move, a wave inside, but still it was very, very quiet. Because people were there for years, you know, the houses, whatever it is, they were settled. Yeah, we consider ourselves Arabs who are Jews. Yeah, that's how Iraq was. There were Arabs who are Shiites. There were Arabs who are Sunni. There are Arabs who are Christians. There are Arabs who are Turks, yeah, or Kurds. They were all considered Arabs because it was the Arabic language, because it was the influence of the Arabic culture.
So is that funny for you when you hear people saying like Jews came from Europe to occupy Palestine, Middle East?
It is so strange for me. It is so strange because for us it was returning back home. And the returning back home, especially for Iraq, especially for Babylonia, especially for the people who stayed in Iraq at that time, and they did not return after Cyrus gave the permission. They stayed there and they were in collaboration, in a very close. There was the Babylonian Talmud and the Jerusalemite Talmud, and there were a correspondence between them, between the rabbis, primarily, whether it was later in Tiberias, Tveria, or it was in Jerusalem, and those of the Geonim in Iraq, in Baghdad.
But you have been always in the Middle East.
Entirely.
Your family have never moved to Europe.
Entirely. My father, as young, and his brothers, after the British took over, they wanted to become a little bit more like the British. So they went and they traveled all over India, Australia. My father was China, Shanghai, yeah. And after 14 years, he returns back. And when we asked him later on, why did you return? He says, every place I went, I wasn't there. I wanted to return back home. And there's a special story about it, but I don't know if you're interested. It's an anecdote. When he was 10 years old, my great-grandfather, his grandmother, took him and says, look, I'm going to show you someone to visit another family. And in that family was a baby girl. And he went and she says, come. She was a very, very special woman, my great-grandmother. He says, take a look at her. And he tells her, oh, she's such a beautiful. And she said to him, you will marry her. 14 years or so after that, China, India, Australia, Japan, whatever thing is, he returned. And whom does he marry? Her. She's my mother. Let's go ahead with your stories. I mean, this is an anecdote about what I want to say about the belonging, the sense of belonging. This is our home. It is ours. But what happened was in 1941, and that was the Farhud.
Farhud is the riots.
Is the riots which was instigated in Baghdad, which was pro-Nazi. It was pro-Nazi attempt to overturn the British ruling at that time, the British mandate at that time, and it was provoked and led by Hajj Amin al-Husseini from Jerusalem, whom now I am in my learning of that, I understand that in the early 20s here in Jerusalem, he is the one who contacted in Cairo what is now the Islamic Brotherhood, of which part of Hamas is. And he told them, you know, the Jews are going to be coming here. Let us create something in order not that they will not come here. And he instigated, together with the Nazis, against the British. So when his attempt did not succeed in the land here, he went to Iraq in order to set up something against the British over there. But they took everything against the Jews. because the British, they were
How many Jews were killed in this riot?
from all what we know, it was something in the, I think, in the 200s, low 300. And they primarily either caught in the street, and on that I have a story for you, because in the Farhud, I was in the womb of my mother. So as a child, I heard all the stories. So either they were caught in the street and they were known to be Jews and they were killed, or they broke into the homes or to businesses. They broke in and then killing, looting, raping, whatever the thing is. And our house, this I know from my parents, our house, they were just about to come. And the way how they do it, they had guns. They will come to like that. My father would do it like that. They come to the lock. They shoot the lock. They break in and they come in. And they were at about the steps into our house. And my mother and him are seeing one Jewish fellow coming in. And they were after him. And he was running and they were after him. My mother wanted to open the house for him. And my father would not let her because he was too close. Till they died, they were still arguing among themselves. She's telling him, I wanted to save him, he's a Jew. And he tells, but we were in danger. At any rate, what saved us was our neighbor, Abu Mahmoud al-Husseini. He was a very prominent person. He was our next door neighbor. They were going to come to our house. He told them, stop here, go further. This is my house. And then he took us and he hid us in his house for 3 days. Until everything is over. I have his name. I know the address of that place. I am going to be looking for the children of his children of his children of his children, because they keep the name. And I want to thank them because he was a noble person. But very few of them were like that. Very rare were few like that. And after the Farhud, after what happened, the congregation changed. No, we cannot stay here anymore. We cannot stay anymore. And by that time, it was 41, 42. The movement in the land here started to grow up.
The land of Israel.
Yeah, here. Yeah,
Palestine of that time.
It was at that time, it was Palestina. Yeah, what the British they called it Palestine, yes. Yeah.
So you had not many choices.
My father thought about going to Australia because he had, before then, and he had a brother in Australia. And he had another brother in London. And then he sat down, and I can remember right now, because people used to come and talk to each other, and he said, and someone who ended up, one of our cousins ended up with his family going to London. He says to him, why do you want to go there? London, you already know English, you are working for the British company and everything in Iraq. Why do you want to go there so hard? You know what he told him? He said to him, I was a teenager in India. I remember him saying it like that. I was sitting with him. I was a teenager in school in India. Yeah, it was school of the British. They would kick me and they call me Jew, Jew, dirty Jew, 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 dirty Jew. I want my children. I want them to play soccer in the street, and no one will call them Jew. No one will hurt them. I want them to be able to be free to have their education and to succeed. And I must say, it cost him a lot because he was at the age of 48, 49, and he had 6 children to come here as an immigrant. And he did not know Hebrew. And he was very much of a gentleman. And in 1951, in Israel, you cannot afford being a gentleman. Oh no, you cannot. You know, when they told him, we were in the Ma'bara, yeah, so they came in and they shouted like that. Tomorrow they come a truck and there will be people coming to work. They shouted like that. It was an announcement. He put his jacket, he took his white shirt, he thought there is work. He come in, they gave him a shovel or something like that. He said, go to work over there in the street. He could not take it more than half a day because his hands were not for that. He was a true gentleman, an accountant, you know. But we survived. We survived.
You came without any money from Iraq? Have you left everything behind you?
All the money that we had was what my mother hid as coins of gold that they used to go to a shoemaker, and he would open the heel of the cloth. They will put in with cotton and they reseal it and they put it in. So they walk with the shoes in both of them, and they are coins of gold that you could exchange. And some went to buy gold because they allowed some. In case, because when he passed through the airport, he could have told him, "Oh, you have too many things." And he had the right. He will take it from her and he will leave her only with two. So my mother and many of them bought some things that are very, so they could sell them in Israel in order to be able to live.
No, that's not a fortune, let's say this way.
No, just to survive for the first 2, 3, 4 weeks, until something will be coming in. When in the States I said we lived in a tent, okay, some people told me, "Oh, you must have been traumatized." And I said, the whole country was traumatized. It was like the American, "You lived in a tent? It was not camping?" He said, "You lived in a tent?" I said, "Yes." But we went to school, and my parents paid attention to school, and that was the major reason why we were able to move further. And
do you like Israel?
I love it. I left Israel in 1965. At that time, I was 23 years old. After being a Nahal, being a soldier, being a paratrooper, and and during that time and afterwards I stayed. I am a founder of Yotfat in the Galilee. At that time, we were just about 12, 15 pioneers to establish the village over there. And I did not want to leave, but I wanted to be a veterinarian. And there was no school for veterinary medicine in Israel. Everyone who wanted to be a veterinarian had to leave Israel. So I was fortunate. I went to the United States. Through my studies, I became interested in research rather than being a clinical veterinarian for the animals in the clinic. That took 7 more years in order to specialize. And after that, I became to be overqualified. So we stayed, and after we waited till the opportunity, we returned back in March 2020 into the Corona after 55 years in the United States. And we are extremely happy here. We're not thinking about any other place to live in the world. And as much as difficult it is here, with the wars, with whatever it is, we just live through. And there are a lot of wonderful people here, a lot.
Zadok, thank you very much for sharing your story. Stay tuned for more on the Global Insights channel.